Because I know one thing, that whenever I give these talks of a morning, sometimes there are people who get some live streaming and they can listen to it far away. So that's why I always try and keep to the time schedule for the talks. But don't worry, there's plenty of time left, each one of you. Another 2 minutes. It's very nice, to have some of the monks from over in Bodhinyana Monastery coming here. Thank you for being here. You know why he's a big monk? You know where he's from? Have a guess. USA is a big place. Where do big monks come from? Texas, yes. It's very nice and very soft. I always thought that big monks from Texas would be like John Wayne, with that strut down.
The previous generation.
Previous generation, oh yeah. My generation. $59. 8 o'clock on this one. That's good enough. A few more people coming in. I know he's going to close the door. Excellent. So, sometimes I kind of wonder just how much Dhamma do people want to hear? And it seems to be as much as they can squeeze out. It's amazing. How many times you hear a Dhamma talk from me? Nevertheless, if you make it interesting, even if you've heard it before, some of the talks which I hear, some of the teachings which I read, some of the things which I contemplate, doesn't matter how many times you hear it, you still actually draw something more in each time. That's why I say, just when I do my own self-retreats, what do I do for instructions? I don't talk to myself. If I look in the mirror and start talking, I put one finger up and go, shh, in the mirror. But instead, that I mentioned the teaching which I remembered and kept on chanting to myself during my 4-week retreat recently was, the sitting under the mango tree, being perfectly still, holding out your hand and the mango falls. I said that to you already. But on the 6-month retreat, and a longer one, that's quite a few years ago, imagine 6 months in solitary. Oh, wow. That was amazing. And at that time, I never saw another human being. We'd arranged it so they'd put some food in my bowl and they put it in a box. And they put it in the box about 10:15, and I would always go there about 10:30. So I always missed whoever put it in there. And they always put lots of nice food in there. And then I ate, washed my bowl, and then put it back in the box. In the afternoon, they picked it up later on in the evening. Never saw another human being. And it was really, You might think that's scary, but when you do your meditation, that's beautiful. You saw all the animals. I like talking about the animals and just how you get to know the local animals. And one day I was washing my bowl after lunch, and then I heard all the kangaroos. They usually hide during the day. They kind of sleep, find some shade and take a nap. But then I heard them all just starting scurrying. Something was scaring them. And as I looked, this huge dugite snake came towards me. And that's why the kangaroos were running away, because they can, if they bite, they're deadly. And so they came right towards me, and about that far, and just had a look at me. Oh, welcome. And I carried on washing my bowl. And at that, when I turned around to look at him again a minute later, he had his tail pointed towards me and his head pointed in the opposite direction. It was a hot day, and he was taking shade under the wall of my hut. And I built that hut, so I know exactly how long that wall was, and it was exactly 3 meters and 40 millimeters. Just a brick wall. And its head was just inside one edge, and its tail was inside the other. You could understand what that snake needed. It just wanted to have some cool on a very hot day. So I let him just stay there. And I just carried on washing my bowl. You get to be sensitive to animals when you live by yourself, especially when you go on a retreat and you do lots of loving kindness. And there's no way in the world that snake would ever have harmed me. It just wanted to have a quiet, sort of cool place to stay, that's all. And so I offered him that. And anyway, and one of the other beautiful animals I saw on that occasion was there was a family of eagles. And every time in the afternoon, this pair of eagles, they had one baby, eaglet. Is that what they call it? I don't know, but baby eagle. And anyway, they would, every time, same time in the afternoon, they were teaching the kid how to fly. So you see the two big eagles on either side, little baby eagle between them. Really cute. And of course, they're not at all afraid or scared of a monk who is just walking meditation or just washing his bowl. That was a wonderful thing. Your character, your sort of peace, your kindness, animals can sense it very, very easily. I don't know why human beings can't, but if you do, then of course, it's amazing you see how to reduce conflict in our world. And anyway, what I was supposed to talk about today, because I was supposed to talk about it yesterday, but got distracted, which I often do. I like being distracted because, often I teach other people how to give talks. You look at your audience and you find out what they really get interested in. This is my feedback time. I get feedback from you. And if you're fed up with another talk about meditation, I can change the subject pretty quickly. But nevertheless, I did promise, and I think it's appropriate as well, because yesterday someone asked a question about in the Satipatthana. It's a very important sutta, but as the questioner asked yesterday, there's 8 factors of the Eightfold Path. And just one of those factors is not enough. You need all of the 8 to come together, to build up this great momentum. Oh, please find a seat somewhere, if there is one. Yeah, excellent. And need all those 8 factors. Is that describing the way to enlightenment? One thing which I was really interested in, when I started learning Pali for myself, and then started reading the suttas, and I preferred reading them in Pali, once you understood the language, Now the language of Pali is so close to Latin, its structure, and even some of the words are the same. It's part of that Indo-Aryan language group. And so when I started learning Pali and reading it for myself, then one of the things I was looking for in the Anguttara Nikaya, that's where they have the ones, the twos, the threes, the fours, and so they putting all these Dhamma teachings of the Buddha and his disciples according to what they were talking about. What's number one, not the two, and the three. What do you think of in the threes? Three refuges? Yeah. What's in the fours? Satipatthana is in the fours. In the five, are the five hindrances, the five khandhas. What's in the six? The six sense bases. What's in the sevens? Seven enlightenment factors. What's in the eighth? No. That's why I led you to that surprising realization. There was no eightfold path in the Anguttara Nikaya eights. And and I read it again, and did I miss it somewhere? No, it wasn't in there. It was in the tens. What's the Eightfold Path doing in the tens? The reason was, this is the path. If you have a path, is that it? Just a path? Wouldn't you like to know where it leads to? If I say, go walk that path over there, you'd ask me first of all, Ajahn Brahm, where does it lead to? Is there a big inescapable pit of vipers and you fall in and you can't get out? If that was the case, you'd not want to go down that path. It leads to enlightenment and the knowledge of enlightenment. And I like saying that one as well about the knowledge, the realization of enlightenment. Because I know a lot of people used to tell me, oh yes, in our tradition, you can become enlightened, but you don't know it. And that's a lot, I've already mentioned the subject of Pali, that's a lot of what I call a Pali word, gomayang. Some of you have listened to my talks many times, so you know exactly what I mean when I say gomayang. Eileen, what does gomayang mean? BS. Yeah. I've got to be careful. I don't know why. You can, but because I'm a monk, they say, no. You can say gomayang instead. It means exactly the same thing. Go is like a cow, or a bull really. It's a male. And mayang is what comes out the back end of a bull. So that's correct. So anyway, of course, that's when the Buddha teaches like that. It's all the time. It's clear. If you do become enlightened, you know it. Isn't that wonderful? So if you don't know it, then you better be practicing a bit more. So anyhow. So that becomes the tenfold path. It's like more complete. And you can't have one without the other. And one of those suttas, they mention there that it can be kind of sequential. When you first start practicing, you practice all sorts of things in all sorts of ways. Personally, because no one in my family, no one even knew how to spell Buddhist, let alone knew what it taught. And so because of that, I had to discover it myself. So when I was discovering it, what I really liked about Buddhism was the meditation. So that was the first thing I really put my attention on. I was a very fortunate monk, a fortunate layperson. How on earth could I do this being born of a poor family over in UK? Really, if you think about my past lives, surely I could have made a better choice of being born like in Sri Lanka or Thailand. Singapore? Would that have been a good place to get reborn? Nah, they probably wouldn't even let me become a monk there. But anyway, in UK. So I didn't know where to start. I became a Buddhist by reading books. And the next problem was, once you're a Buddhist, then what do you do? Where can you find a teacher? I was living in London, 16 years of age. I didn't know any other Buddhists. I know what I should have done. This is how stupid I was. In those days, you didn't have any internet. We did have yellow pages. I should have looked in the telephone directory, B for Buddhist, and found the nearest temple. There were some. And this is an experience which really made an impact on me. There was a Buddhist temple in the suburb of Chiswick. And I used to, all my friends were in Chiswick. I lived the other side of Chiswick to the north, Acton, and my school was in Hammersmith, the western side of, the eastern side of Chiswick. And this was my local area. This was my, and I used to say, my manor. That's what the hoodlums used to say. This is my manor. I wasn't a hoodlum, I was a good kid. I'd always say that. But anyhow, there was a Buddhist temple there, Sri Lankan Buddhist temple, the Mahavihara in Chiswick. And I never knew it existed. I would have walked past it a few times, but it had a very small sign. I never paid attention. But the terrible thing was I never saw a monk or a nun or anything which could remind me of Buddhism. It was right there, so close to where I lived. And so eventually, only after I became a monk, when I went to go and visit my mother, still alive in Acton, I used to stay there at the Sri Lankan temple. They're very happy to let me stay. And I said, how come I never knew about you? When I was a lay person, I was really wanting to learn and practice. And you know the reason why? Because whenever a monk went from the monastery to give a talk somewhere or go to somebody's house to do a dana, they always went in a car. That's why I never saw them. That's one of the reasons why. The last time I was in Singapore, just a couple of weeks ago, I kind of insisted, please, can I go on the MRT? And you took me on the MRT to the airport. Okay, it was only one station. Oh, two stations. But it was a start. You can go on the train, so people could see you. And if I'm on a train, I'm really talkative. There was a couple who were from Germany. Yeah, so I started talking to them about Buddhism and about where you're going, how are you. And I love doing stuff like that. That's the job of a monk. And if you're going on a train, you meet so many more people, so many interesting people, and some of them come to the temple afterwards. They get impressed that, even you can go on a train. So I love, whenever I can, in Hong Kong, I'm really into that, because I'm, old now, so you have a little pendant, and I should have bought it. It's a smiley face pendant for senior citizens. So I've got one of those, and so it's really cheap to go on the trains in Hong Kong. I've been on the trains a couple of times in Thailand, in Bangkok, but sometimes even there they think, oh, what's a monk doing on a train? Does that mean he's got no car to take him here, there and everywhere? It's much better being on the train. and especially in UK. I love going on the train there. And I remember just once I was visiting my brother, and then he took me to the nearest underground station. I have one of those, is it Oyster cards? Yeah, Oyster card, great. I had an Oyster card, so didn't need to pay any fare, just tap the card. And I couldn't believe it. It was a terminus. So I got there early and got on the train. I was going to wait for about 10 or 12 minutes before the train left. And you know what day it was? It was October the 30th. And I was on the train carriage first. And then honestly, I saw all these vampires come into my carriage, followed by witches, demons. It was, honest, it was Halloween night. And that was, I say, one of the only times I've been on an underground train and felt that I belonged. And people did ask me, what are you dressed as? I'm being honest, that's what happened. So I'd love those nice stories. But of course, you could also be the best trip on the underground carriages in London, because you sit there, some of the journeys can be long, and other people look at you, and some of them actually, they get your friendliness. That's when you can live with lots of loving kindness, never being harmful to anybody, and then they come up to ask you questions. I remember on this time, it was the morning, and so the underground carriage was quite congested, but I had a seat, and it wasn't that congested because the seat sitting next to me was empty. So this lady came up, sat down, and asked her questions. The first question was, "Are you a Buddhist monk?" I said, "Yeah, I think so." And then she said, "A real Buddhist monk?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I'd like to ask some questions about Buddhism. If you're going on a journey on the underground and there's like a teacher there can actually say something, of course you'd appreciate it." And so I started talking about all sorts of things about Buddhism. And then she got to the question of rebirth, reincarnation. "Interesting you say that," I said, because here at Jhana Grove, about 6 months before, there was an Italian Buddhist who was here. I mean, call him Italian Buddhist. His country of birth was Italy. He still had an Italian accent. And he said some really interesting things. On his interview, he said, "I had an interesting experience when I was meditating yesterday. When I was meditating, I had this nimitta, this sign, this vision. And this vision was like I was a piece of spaghetti." Some of you remember this story. Now sometimes you see nimittas like beautiful lights, full of bliss and stuff. But a piece of spaghetti, that's a weird nimitta sign. I said, "Okay." And he asked, "What was it?" He said, "But before you answer, I had another one as well." Now, the following meditation. This time, I was identifying as a piece of macaroni. Spaghetti, and then a piece of macaroni. And then I said, "I got it then." Once he said the macaroni as well as the spaghetti. What you were doing, your first experience of past lives. And looking at you right now, that's exactly how the carriage in the underground train reacted. Half of the people in the carriage groaned. And they hadn't heard it before. A few others laughed. But that was the way I taught Buddhism to all of those people in that underground carriage. They remembered it. The Buddhist monks have a weird sense of humour. And that's one of the reasons how you kind of connect with people. I don't know if you've been on those underground trains or public transport. A lot of times nobody looks at each other. I remember when I was a student, they'd always be reading their newspapers and they'd never look up. These days they don't read newspapers, they look at their iPhones. And this time they were looking at their iPhones, but I knew they were listening to me. And as soon as I gave the punch, all these people looked up, but they weren't looking at their iPhones anymore. They wagged their head and a few of them giggled. That's a wonderful way of getting people's attention. And I always remember that. Now, what was I supposed to be talking about? 23 minutes, oh goodness, most of the talk has gone already. Not quite. Okay, oh yeah, with the Tenfold Path. And for me, it was getting into the meditation first of all. And it had such huge effects. So much so, I love telling the story about how I meditated to pass my final exams at Cambridge. You know, the last time I taught that was by an invitation to the Jewish high school here in Perth. You know, I knew their chaplain, their rabbi. He was a rebel. That's why I liked him. Because I remember saying to him, I said, I realise that the Jewish rabbis don't believe in rebirth. And then he interrupted me. What are you talking about? I believe in rebirth. It's in the Torah, is that right? Or it's one of those holy books. And I saw the chief rabbi, at another ceremony somewhere. I said, I didn't realise you guys believed in rebirth. He said, we don't. And I said, but one of your rabbis said, that must have been Moshe Bernstein. Yeah, I said, that was him. He said, that would be him. He was a rebel, that's why I liked him. And anyway, so he invited me, because the kids on there, they did a practice exam, for the university entrance. And they did terribly. And I told Moshe, he said, look, it's easy to solve that problem, because that's how I pass my exams. A 3-hour exam in theoretical physics in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon, for 6 days in a row, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I thought it was really unfair, doing exams on Saturday. Surely we should have one weekend off. Or if you don't have a weekend off, surely you should get extra time to finish the exam paper, because people who do physical work on Saturdays, they get double time. Is that correct? 1.5. What about Sundays? Double. What day is it today? I get double merit by teaching today. So anyway, there was no break in between. So I was a student, and I decided big breakfast, big dinner in the evening, no lunch. My 1 hour at lunchtime, when I was supposed to be eating, I just went back to my room and meditated. I don't know where I got all these ideas from, but it worked really well. Can you imagine what happened in my mind? Just a novice meditator, didn't really know what was going on, but had some kind of insight. I needed to rest. Just done 3 hours, just some maths in the morning, something silly like quantum physics, and in the afternoon another 3-hour exam in astrophysics of the galaxy. Like simple stuff. It fries your mind. And so anyway, after the morning exam, you felt so exhausted. Do you feel tired sometimes? Imagine this is like high stakes. My life depended upon this. You pass and get a degree from Cambridge, and then you're made If only I had known I was going to be a monk. What use is that degree? So anyway, so I worked, put all my effort in the morning exam, and after 3 hours continuous screwing my mind, all the juice of whatever it was I was supposed to be answering was used up. And so I dragged myself back to my room, sat on my chair, and started meditating. What was the first thing which I got? Tired. Once my mind became clear, the next thing which came up, what would you think of? The morning exam. Did I do that answer correctly? Could I add in more information? Was that really what they were asking for in the question? The past is over. The exam paper has already been in. I couldn't access it anymore. How stupid I was worrying about it. So, because I've been practicing for a couple of years, you could let go of the past. You really could. So I let go of worrying about the morning exam, which still weighed heavily on me. So the next thing which came up, I never decided to do this, it was automatic. And the most important thing which I'd just done, came first. And the next thing which came up, afternoon exam. I often tell this story. I thought of actually doing some last minute revision. Anyone who does last minute revision, what I found out, someone should do some research on this, and you get one of those ignoble prizes. All the things you would think might come up in the afternoon exam never ever come up. Never. That's my experience anyway. So I knew that enough to let go of the future. Bye-bye future exam. That's coming in another half an hour's time, but not now. I let go of time. That's so helpful. Anyone who's ever anxious should remember this. Once, my mother told me, I was only a little kid, I had to go to the dentist the following morning. I didn't like the dentist. All those sharp objects. It was like going to the torture chamber. Especially in those days, things weren't as kind of healthy as they are these days. So she said, you have to go to the dentist tomorrow morning. I said, oh, Mummy, do I have to? You're only about 6 or 7, 8 years old or something. And I tried to protest and cry, but it didn't work. So she sent me to the room and went to bed. Didn't sleep well that night. And the following morning, I woke up early and started trying to plan strategies to escape. Even then, I was smart enough. Now, how can I get out of this? And I tried everything, screaming and crying and not eating my breakfast and stuff. Nothing worked. And I was so tense and so tired. And my mum was about to take me to get adopted somewhere instead of going to the dentist. She had enough of me. And I was tense and suffering. She was suffering as well. And honestly, when I got to the dentist surgery, only then did my mother and I found out the appointment was cancelled. The dentist had got sick. Have you ever experienced things like that? Things you really were afraid of actually never happened. So it was telling me an important point. Don't be afraid of the future. Let the past and the future go. No one can predict the future. Not even the Buddha. You know what the Buddha used to do? Oh, he would, just live in the present moment. That's the place to be. I was thinking of my teacher, Ajahn Brahm. Someone once asked him for a Buddha statue to wear around his neck. To give you good luck. And this man, he was being drafted into the Thai army. And they send these recruits over give them a basic training, then send them over to the border regions where they shoot real bullets, and some soldiers get killed. He was scared. Can I please have a little Buddha? Have a Buddha put around my neck to protect me from bullets? And of course Ajahn Chah says no. And this guy, I've looked after you for so many years. It's the first time I've asked you for anything, and you say no. So Ajahn Chah says, okay, I will give you a Buddha to hang around your neck, which will protect you from bullets. And I'm not exaggerating, I don't lie. This one would actually work, will protect you from bullets. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. It's a big 2-meter one in the main hall. Hang that around your neck and you'll be safe in any conflict where machine guns or people are firing at you. Well, the other time, another guy, he wanted some protection. Well, not really protection, he just wanted to know whether his future was going to be good or bad. And so he had his lines on the palm read. Have you ever done that? Other places in Singapore where someone can read the lines on the palm of your hand? Have you done that? Be honest. My first piece of advice, if ever, I gave this over in Hong Kong, there's one street where people just all line up and it's all like fortune tellers. And I told my disciples, never ever choose a poor fortune teller. If they can't tell their own fortunes, how can they tell yours? But Ajahn Chah, he refused until eventually he gave in. He said, okay, you've been one of my best supporters. I'm going to tell, what the lines on your hand signify. And I won't lie. He said, yeah, I know, you're very trustworthy. So Ajahn Chah started reading the lines on his palm. And he got more and more excited, this man. It's the only time Ajahn Chah had ever read the lines on a lay person's hand. And when he was finished, Ajahn Chah looked at him and said, your future. Yes. And I'm not going to lie. I know you're not going to lie. Get on with it. He was so excited. He wanted to find out what the result. And he said, your future is? Uncertain, yeah. So if you want that, if you want the lines on your hand read, you don't need to show them to me. I can tell you right away. It's uncertain. What's the weather going to be like later on this afternoon? Uncertain. And one of the reasons we always say that, the Dhamma behind that, it may be inclining to one particular way, but you can always influence it. You never know what's going to happen. So because of that, the future is uncertain. It's very easy to let go. What question's going to come up? I haven't got a clue. So I just let it go. Once I let those two go, past and future, which is what many of you worry about, I was left with the present moment. So simple. Once you get into the present moment, you start noticing things which you hadn't seen before, because you're too worried about what's happening next or what's just happened. You don't see what's actually happening right now. And the first thing which I noticed really shocked me. I mean, really did shock me. I was shaking, physically. Final exams. And I was brainwashed into thinking they were so important. Physically, my body couldn't keep still. As soon as I could see that, it's easy to focus my attention on the body and relax it. 2 or 3 minutes and then my body was still. Another couple of minutes of just relaxing, and then the body was so far from that kind of restlessness, you could stay still. And the last thing I noticed, once my body was at peace, I didn't have many pains or aches. I was a young man, I was only 20. And then when I looked at my brain, it was exhausted, really exhausted. And the way I compare it, it's like, the tea bags. Having a tea bag which had already been used once, and you try to use it again to get some tea back in it. That was like my brain. All the oomph in the brain had just been used in the morning exam. You're exhausted. And these were important, I'm seriously using this word properly, insights. I was seeing how my body was working when it was tired, and how my brain gets exhausted. And many of you, your brain is exhausted, but you still have to work, answer an email, answer a telephone, or whatever else you do in your life. And when that happens, you're so exhausted, but you still have to force yourself to work. That really destroys your brain. It uses more energy up. More energy than the usual. Instead of working that hard continuously, when you're tired, exhausted, please, meditation is the best. Or even here, you have your own room. Go in there any time of day and night. If you notice your brain is really exhausted, lay down and go to sleep. I say I never got COVID, but came close a few times. You know what I did? Over here in Bodhinyana Monastery, a few times during that period, you felt, you're so tired or exhausted, hadn't got a clue what it was. And if I possibly could, I'd go into my cave, lock the door and lay down and go sleep. In the middle of the day. I'd already had a good sleep at night. My body was telling me, take another sleep. And sometimes, you'd go into your cave, lay down, you'd fall asleep straight away. Maybe 1 or 2 seconds. And you wake up. When you woke up, after 45 minutes or an hour, my goodness, my body felt so full of energy. It was like my body was saying, thank you for listening to me. A lot of times your body gives you instructions, tells you what's going on, but you don't believe it. You believe what somebody else says. You believe I've had some sleep already, so I don't need any more till tonight. Don't follow any theories. Follow what your body is telling you. And that's why, I didn't do that every day or anything, but a few times, a day here, a day there during that season, and you felt so much more healthy afterwards. Do you understand? I'm saying that to you on this retreat. If you really feel that tired, that's why you have your own rooms. Relax. Be kind to your own body. Take a break. You catch up with that time later on, you always do. And so that was how I passed my exams. Easy. Let go of the past, let go of the future. Let go of all this thinking based on the past and the future so you could actually be here and feel how your body is. And then relax your mind. Re-energize it. And then basically that's how I passed my exams. I always remember when I taught at this Jewish school, sometimes I worry whether should I say that because the Jewish community are not so popular at this moment. But nevertheless, these were people, real people. I don't care what part of society they're at. I just always want to help. And so when it comes to you, your work, any place you get stressed out, If you really get stressed out, if you haven't got a bed you can sleep on, find a nice little quiet room and meditate. But I don't know how to meditate. I just told you. Basic first steps of meditation. Make sure you've got as comfortable as you can imagine, place to sit. And then let go of the past, where you come from, who you are. Let go of the future. It's amazing how free you are from work when the past and future disappears from you. And then start experiencing this body and relax it even more fully. If you ever hear one of the guided meditations I do at our Noramara Center, that's how I teach there. Sit down, no past, no future, and then start scanning your body. I love doing that. The problem I have in teaching that is that whatever I say, I actually do as well. So when I start saying, start to notice your toes. Can you feel your toes right now? Right now, not how they were yesterday or how they're going to be tomorrow. Right now, how do they feel? Relax them. How do you relax a toe? You can, it's very wonderful. And your toes feel more at ease than ever before. And then move up to the balls of your feet, and then you sweep your attention through your feet much, much slower than this. And my problem is, whenever I do that for others, I have to do it for myself. And sometimes, especially on a retreat like this, when I'm end of our range retreat, have some good meditation, sometimes you get to, can you feel the heels of your feet? How do they feel? And then they come up. You can feel all the sensations in the heels of your feet. First of all, they may be dull, but then they become so clear. And then it's like a big billboard on the side of the road, just illuminated with 1,000,000-watt lights. You can see everything in there. And it doesn't feel like like anything. It's always very beautiful, very peaceful. And quite a few times what happens to me, I'm being honest, I can't go on any further. And the feeling in the heels becomes so clear, so beautiful, that turns into nimittas, deeper stages of meditation, and off you go. That's one of the things that it doesn't matter where you start. Even being aware of the sensation in the heels of your own feet can be all you need to get into the deepest of meditations. So that's when people say, is there just one way of meditation? Yes. The heel meditation. It's not what you're watching, it's just what actually you're doing, how you're letting go of things. You're focusing, relaxing, until something gets so beautiful. You can imagine how it works. The heels become or maybe just your toes even. Sometimes you get such good meditation, just your toes are enough. And your big toe, you can actually feel it. And it's a pleasant feeling. And it fulfills your mind. You don't need anything else. And that toe kind of transforms into a beautiful nimitta, these lights in the mind which are just next door to jhanas, and from the jhanas off into the insights. Very simple. And it's amazing where it can start. And so if that starts to happen, don't say, oh my goodness, I haven't been watching the breath. It can't be a good meditation. And that is more Gomayang. It's a beautiful meditation. You feel it, you get to know it. And so you can just go shortcuts. It's just learning, number one, to be in the present moment, letting go of past and future. The second thing which I sometimes add to that is learning how to be silent. Silence, again, is beautiful. You know that story I said about, that's a Lao Tzu story. When he walked with one of his disciples, they saw a beautiful sunset. Oh, what an amazing sunset, the disciples said. And the teacher had already mentioned that on these walks you can't say anything. And his friend said, why? What's wrong with saying what a beautiful sunset? That's not evil. And the answer which Lao Tzu gave, I'd always remember the first time I heard that, I said, what a beautiful way of teaching. He said, when you see a beautiful sunset and you say, what a beautiful sunset, you're not watching the sunset anymore. You're watching the words. And I was at Nuns Monastery in Dhammasara a few years ago, and I didn't have much time to actually give a Dhamma discourse, but said, please teach us some Dhamma. Said, okay, but I need to go to the toilet. So they took me to the toilet. I said, is that the monks' toilet there? Yes, it's there. So, male toilet, that's good enough. They had a big sign on the door, male toilet. And they were a bit surprised that I'd asked where it was. I knew where that was. And I'd helped build that cottage, one of the first cottages at Dhammasara. And they were a bit, what's Ajahn Brahm up to? Of course, they knew I was up to some mischief. And so I went to the door which said, men's toilet. And I pretended I didn't do it. I pretended to urinate on the door. And what are you doing? It says men's toilet. I'm just following the instructions on the door, men's toilet. Then it's inside. Well, why didn't you put that on the door? Men's toilet inside. Have you ever seen that even at, say, Changi Airport? Do they say that men's toilet inside? No. That's the trouble with words. Then they assume a lot. That's one of the reasons why I prefer to see the sunset rather than see the words describing it. And honestly, what's more beautiful? Again, it's a full moon. It's coming up. It's on Tuesday night. That's our end of the range retreat. It's a full moon night. Already it's pretty bright. But anyway, the big full moon, you'll see that on Tuesday night. I think Monday night you'll probably be able to see it pretty sort of full. And if there is no rain clouds, go out and just sit down and have a look at it. Why? Secret. See if you can see that moon without describing it. It's so much more beautiful. You get so much more energy. So that becomes, in the silence, the mind becomes far more satisfied. Present moment, silence. And all the things which happen next are pretty automatic. There's a stage in meditation, I call it like the turning point in meditation. And, the pivot point, what's actually the word they use these days? Anyway, the point where, once you get to that point, you're off. It's like you've caught the train, you're on the aircraft, it's going to take off, you just sit back and enjoy yourself. This is that point in meditation. You are in the present. The mind is not thinking, it's silent. And you start to enjoy what you're experiencing. And once you start to experience that and enjoy it, then that's where you take off. And it's not just ordinary meditation. You're just starting, baby. You're just starting. Wow. When I use language like that, does it encourage you? Or am I just trying to be too hip? That's one of the problems these days. You look at all the people coming to retreats. How many of you are under 30? Oh, you are? Oh, well done. Is that how people talk to each other these days? I was only 23 when I became a monk. So I was a young kid, but sometimes it's hard to get language which relates to you when you're young. But anyway, so when you really take off, and those, what is the right way of meditating then? What about the insights practice? All of the things which you practice, which work, and you find out the insight in how to face stress. That's what we mean about passing exams. Why is it like you're always being examined? Easy to pass those tests. Relax to the max. That's how to do it. And how do you get rid of anxiety? Easy. Let go of the past. Let go of the future. Be in this moment. Be still. And then you're having a wonderful time. You can't be anxious about anything. How do you overcome, what is this, I don't know, death? What is death? Some idea of the future. Are you dying now? Are you dead right now? Not yet. But on October the 30th, when it's the 31st, the Halloween's night, are you going to be away then? You can be back in Singapore on the 31st of October? Okay. You can come back here. Ooh. Anyhow, those are the insights which really work. Not just once, but many times. How to let go of past and future. How to be free of all these problems which people have in life. Sometimes, I said, one of those biggest problems is always worrying about what other people think of you. Sometimes I contemplate, why am I not afraid what other people think of me? A long time ago, I worked it out. If people like what I say, then they'll come back again. And then they'll give lots of donations so I can help a nun's monastery. Don't need anything over here, basically. And help other monasteries, whatever. How much do you need to be a happy monk? You know, our living costs are very cheap. We had one of those global conferences once. It was done in New Zealand. And this guy, he was a really good Buddhist, in England. He was on the board of the Bank of England, a really good economist, a professor at one of the universities. And he had his idea of how to present Buddhism in an interesting way. But on this particular occasion, he rewrote his whole presentation the night before and said, how much does it cost to look after a Buddhist monk or a Buddhist nun? And he said, it's surprisingly cheap. Now, what does a Buddhist monk eat? Only, in those days, 1 meal a day. That's not much to fork out for a monk. And where do they live? In the monasteries, they live in a little hut, what we call a kuti. And he said it's just like very similar to like a kennel. And what does a dog do for you? You take it for a walk every morning and evening, or rather it takes you for a walk. You get a lot of teachings on kindness and compassion from your dog. They never complain, but they always love you. A dog. And they're very easy to look after. And in fact, he worked it out. a monk is much cheaper to look after than a pet dog. And he ended his presentation by saying, every home should have one. And he was a chief economist, and it was really true. The benefits you get from having a monk around are very financially worthwhile. But anyhow, that's also with using them as an example, how you can live very simply, have much more fun and happiness in life. You're not so stressed out, and you can enjoy your life, as I do. I'm very happy being a monk. 51 years not out as a monk. When was the last time you saw me get depressed? Well, be honest. Yeah, I enjoy myself. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to have a good time this morning. Thank you very much. Sadhu, 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 sadhu. So the next thing I'm going to do is, so we have the interviews. So please keep the interviews to maximum 9 minutes and 59 seconds each. If you possibly can. Okie dokie. And what will you do this afternoon? That's the future, I'm not worrying about that. See what happens next. More interviews, okay. So have a wonderful time.